There, all right, we are now live. So today's session is really just about, it's about Blackboard Collaborate, but we're also going to talk about Google Hangouts, mostly those two. If you have questions about other virtual classrooms, I'd be happy to entertain them. But those are the two that basically our campus supports. That's what we bought into. So that's kind of what I want to dive into as far as how we use these two tools. So to get started, first of all, I'm just going to share my screen. And in Google Hangouts, you can do that. You can do the same thing and collaborate. What we're using, obviously, is a Google Hangout. But if I click on the little green arrow on the top left, I can do a screen share. And actually, this works much better using Google Hangouts than it would in Collaborate. Collaborate has a few issues with trying to do a screen share. It tends to really slow it down. So I'm going to just share my screen there. So I'm just going to modify the size of the screen I'm sharing, the window I'm sharing, so that it appears right for y'all. And I'll go ahead and open up CourseDen. Because what I really want to talk about is using Collaborate inside of CourseDen. But if you have some questions about using it outside, that's fine. We can entertain those too. As I've said in the past, I normally try to do these videos based on who's here. So if you have questions, I want to entertain your questions. So if people want to know more, then they come to the session and ask the questions. So they're very tailored to who's here. So feel free to ask any questions that you have, and we'll keep it pretty casual. So with that said, let me go ahead and just log in to my CourseDen site. Excuse me. And I'm going to open up just a sandbox course, just my play course, so we can just go break it, basically. So the few reasons, I guess, behind using Collaborate, Tom really knows already, frankly. He uses Collaborate quite a bit. So he may be teaching half the class. I think I'm going to let him. But there's a lot you can do with this. One of the reasons I'm asked to set up a room or to help someone set up Collaborate is just for office hours. So I want to look at that a little bit, and I also want to look at, say, setting it up as like a weekly meeting, an optional meeting for your students if they want to kind of hop in and do some things. You can also use that as well as Google Hangouts for kind of, they both can be used kind of the same thing. There's some differences though. But you can also use them for even narrating, say, a PowerPoint, which is not a bad plan. So if you narrate them or use them to narrate a PowerPoint, that's an option. Although recently, if you have the very latest version of Microsoft Office, they've improved it a lot. They've added some really neat features as far as narrating PowerPoint, even capturing your own video and doing some things that you couldn't previously do. So there's a new tool called Mix that works with Microsoft Office, but you have to have the very latest version of Microsoft Office. And you can get that here on campus just by calling ITS and asking them to install it. So we have it on campus, just have to ask for it. But that's worth it, FYI. I like it a lot. I've been using it. I played with the Mix some. I haven't got all of the features figured out, but you can do a lot of stuff with it. So if you're just using one of these tools here to capture you, just to capture your own lecture, you don't really have people there, it's not a meeting, you're just using it to capture, that's not a bad option, using Mix. So I'll throw it out before I get too deep into these. So the first thing let's go ahead and take a look at how I would add a Collaborate room. Tom, your rooms are now integrated inside of CourseDen, right? You're not using any external rooms?
Right.
Okay. And ideally, that's what you want to do. In the past, until a couple of semesters probably, that wasn't really an option. There was no integrated version of Collaborate. Now, we had Wimba in the past. If you've used Wimba, I don't know if you have or not, Michelle, but I think Collaborate's better. It seems to be less technical issues than Wimba had. And I frankly actually like Hangouts. Overall, I like them better, although they have some limitations as far as size of your group, and there's a couple of limitations that they have. So depending on how deep you want to use them, what you want to do with them. I don't think they work for Tom because Tom utilizes stuff like groups and does some other things, so the Hangout may not work for his scenario. All right, so let's say I want to add a Collaborate or a Google Hangout as a virtual office. So to do that, the way I would do it, frankly, is as you've seen here, I've actually added it twice because I was showing something else before. So let me delete one of these here and make it go away. As you can easily add that as a news item. So that's one way to get it so your students can see it pretty quickly, is right on your front page in your course. Just add a news item with a link. I can't talk today, sorry. So this is a Google Hangout office hours, and granted, I'm going to have a lot more text here, probably like when I'll be there. You know, give them a little more detail. I just did this as a kind of a show and tell. But this link it goes directly to a certain room. I don't have to invite anybody. I don't have to do any of that. They click on this, it's going to open up a brand new Hangout. Now, granted, I'm in a Hangout right now, so it's not going to let me join too, but it just goes directly to my room that I've set up. Okay,
so that's probably, David, that's what I want to do tonight, probably.
Yep. So I will show you how to do that. Now, the downside of the way I'm doing here, if you call it a downside, is this type of room is not one I can record. So if you're trying to do a Hangout on air, that's a different method of doing that. So are you trying to record yours tonight? Do they want to be recorded sessions or just sessions?
Tonight I do not. It's more about just kind of, you know, getting everybody connected and kind of dealing with new student anxiety. But in the future, it is nice to be able to record.
Okay. So I'll show you how to do both.
Okay.
Both methods. So for this method, this, first of all, could be Hangout, and it also could be a Collaborate room. So before I move on past here, I'm working right now with the Board of Regents as well as Georgia Southern and some people who've already done this to integrate our Google Apps inside of CourseDen. So they're not there yet. It may be a little while, but I'm working on that right now. And if I do that, we may be able to just click and add a Hangout right to your room, and you can do a few things. So I'm still kind of getting the bugs out of that and seeing what we can do with it. But we're working on making Google Hangouts a little bit more integrated with our CourseDen system. So just so you know. But all right, enough of that. So I'm going to go ahead and just say create a new room. So I'm going to click on this little drop down. Not a new room, I'm sorry. A new news link. A new news item here. Pretending like I don't have office hours already. So I'm going to go ahead and create one. So first I'm going to give this a name. Just call it office hours for Dave. I already have office hours. And now here in my little text box, I just give them the information. I will be in this virtual room Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 5 or whatever. Probably not that long, hopefully. We'll give them some kind of a time frame and let them know what you're using. So if I'm going to use the Google Hangouts, then I might let them know, be logged in to your wesca.edu account and then click on this link. Because it does matter. Because we're using this Wesca account, we are kind of contained in a little bubble, if you will. It's a little safety bubble. So although you can use these and send a link out to someone external, by default, if I just put a link here, the students will not, it'll open up a different area. They won't come inside the bubble unless I'm allowing them to, kind of. So I would recommend just stating, log into your wesca.edu account, because all your students have a Gmail. It's all their Wesca accounts or Gmails. They're all Google accounts. So you probably already know that, but due to our apps for EDU. So I'd give them some kind of text blurb here, and I'll do just that. Text blurb. Here you go. And then I need to put a link here. So to get the link, so this is my other part. So I'm going to go up here to a new tab in my window, and I'm going to go to Google, and I want to go to my calendar. I'm using this fake account. This is our little account that we use for all our videos. So I'm going to click on this, looks like a Rubik's Cube to me. And let me see if I can make that a little bit easier to see here. And I'm going to go to my calendar. So what I'm going to do is actually create what I call a static link to a room. So I want something that's going to stay here. I don't normally in a Hangout it's a right now thing. I just send you an invite. Join me right now. But I want to make this long term. I want to make a one link that I can use over and over again. I can use it until the end of the semester if I want to. So to do that, what I do is click on month, and I go to the end of the semester. So I think the end of the semester, December or something. So let's say we'll go to December 27th. And this date doesn't really matter. I'm using the end of the semester so my link doesn't go away until at least then. So I'm going to select this and just make a calendar event. So I'm going to click here and then I'm going to say edit event because I want to get to the details of it. And then I'm going to say office hours. Now, this doesn't matter. I could say Frank's Bar if I wanted to because my students don't see my calendar event. I'm just using this so I can come down here and click add video call. And then what I've just done is I'm creating a permanent link that I can put in my course, and it will stay there until at least this date. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I got it titled. It can be all day. It doesn't even matter. But I'll have it just for 10. I won't put it all day. And if you want to, you can even come down here. I don't need a reminder because this isn't anything. I'm not really using this event. And I'll make it private so it's not on my calendar really for any if I'm sharing my calendar. And I need to save this, and then I'll come back in. So I'm going to say save. Now I'm going to go ahead and just click on it and see where it says join video call. All I need is the URL underneath that. So I can either right-click and tell it to copy the link address. So depending on the type of browser you're using, it may say something a little different here. But I can copy that address. Or I could actually click join video call. When it opens up this new window in the top, I can grab the URL this way too. And just right-click and copy. Okay. So let me close that. And now back in my news item over here, I'm going to go ahead and make that link. So to add a link, it's our little insert quick link button here in our bar. I'm going to say URL, and I'm going to go ahead and paste that in right here. And I want to open in a new window. And then actually in the URL, I'm going to paste this, sorry. And in the title, I don't want that huge title. I'm actually just going to put office hours or Google virtual classroom or whatever you want to call it. Maybe I'll call it my virtual office. Be a Google Hangout. There we go. And I'm going to say insert. Now, granted, again, I want more text here. I want it so they understand what I'm doing and when I'm here and all that. So I hope that's kind of a given. But this is the link I need. So that's if I want to do it as a Google Hangout. Okay, so I'm actually going to show you both methods right here while we're together. So I'm going to come down and say, well, what if I want to use Blackboard Collaborate as my room? And I don't really want to use Hangout because I don't, for whatever reason, I want to use Collaborate. Okay, I can do that too. So again, I'm going to click the quick link button up here. This time I'm going to use an external learning tool. So external learning tool is where we hide Collaborate. It's not really part of the system, it was integrated into it. And now I have Blackboard Collaborate. Now I have my link. So what this is really pointing to, if you use Collaborate for other things in your class, they click on this, they can get to all of your classrooms. So you might have a room, and I know Tom does, he has more than one, I believe. You can have a room for your office hours, and maybe a room that you use each week. And you might want more than one room because they're going to record. So that's a little bit easier to make a static, kind of a static link that stays the same for a room that you can record. Although you have to just, personally, you need to kind of try them both and see which one you find easiest for you. So once I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Come down here in the bottom and we'll publish it. Not save it, but publish it. And go back to my course home. So now I have my two links. One will go to my Google Hangout that I just created, and the other one is, if I click on this, and as an instructor, it's different than as a student. The bottom one is, the Collaborate link is. If I click on that as an instructor, it's going to open up my Collaborate room here in a minute. And this is also, I guess, what the students will see too. I've actually already built some rooms inside of my Collaborate area. I built some sessions. One of those is my virtual office. I don't know of a way that I can link directly to one room. I don't. There may be a way, but I haven't found it yet. If I do, I'll share. But they click on that, and then you just click Virtual Office. So if I was going to use Collaborate, then I may put in that text blurb, click on the link, and then click Virtual Office.
Okay.
So then they know where they're at. So no big deal. They're going to click that. It opens up Collaborate room. Okay. And did I lose anybody yet?
Nope.
Awesome.
So Dave, just one question. When you said they have to log into their Weska email, if they just are in D2L, is that good enough for this then?
For the Collaborate, it is. So think of Google. The Google thing is an external piece. So if you're using Google Hangouts,
right.
Basically, if they've opened any window, like with me, I'm always logged into my Deloitte at Weska in my Gmail because I just keep it logged in.
Right. Me too.
But the students, they and like myself, I actually have an external, my regular Gmail I had before I ever came here. But I have one called UWG Deloitte, but it's at gmail.com, not at wesco.edu. So if
Right.
I'm logged into that one and I click that link, it actually doesn't know where I'm at because we're kind of hidden behind a bubble for our little edu blanket that we're covering ourselves in. So
See, I
that's why
think
I
that's
mentioned to them, log
and I
in.
think that's the trouble I have trouble with getting some students is that
Okay.
they're in the wrong email.
Yep, that's possible. And what you could do when they click on that to join, I'll show you actually. Let me go back to my room here. Go back. Actually, the way I did that just now, notice that I didn't have it open in a new window, so it took my window. It took Desire to Learn right out of there. Let's put it back up. So get back to me there. So I would make sure those open in a new window, by the way. So let me fix that real quick before I get too carried away. I'm going to highlight it and click that link again. I should be able to just modify it. Oh, maybe not. It's not going to let me. But I clicked same frame before, so make sure you click new window on both of those.
Okay.
Okay. I won't mess with that right now. So put in here, let me get back to my course home. I don't need to mess with that. If I click on this, so it opens up. I know you may not be able to see this, but it says join. And actually, it's telling me right here as UWG Gmail. My UWG online at gmail.com. Okay. But that's probably what I was in as when I created it. That's so I'm fine to go from Gmail to Gmail, but I can't go from edu to Gmail. But they also see switch account. So if they have some understanding, or if you can type that in, they can just click switch account and they can log into their other account. Does that hopefully not too confusing, but they do need to be logged into the .edu account for them to see it.
Okay.
The way you could get around it, I guess, but I don't even know if you get around it because I think it happened the other way as well. If you created it from your Gmail external and added that link, which you could certainly do, and they were in there in the .edu link, they may have the same issue. But I think I would just stay in there. Just log into Gmail using your .edu account and click this link.
Okay.
So that's what that will do. So that's one area you might want to utilize those. So the big difference between the two is the amount of people you can have inside the room. So in our Hangout we're in right here, because of the .edu, really, if I use regular Gmail, it's slightly different. There's less people. But in our .edu version, we can have 15 people, live interactive people. So we could actually have, the way I'm doing it with broadcasting it, we can have the entire world could be watching. It looks like I can actually tell I have one person viewing, which is great. I don't see that and there's not interaction with that person, but I can tell that someone else is viewing. So if I wanted to, I could actually pull up another window at a little pace. I could pull up my either my Google Plus page or my YouTube account itself, and I could watch, and that person could make comments, and I could respond to that person. But they're not interactive like you are. Like you and Tom both are in here. We can talk, have a conversation, but I can leave it open for the other viewers. Now, the way we did it in our room here, this is not recorded. So this is only for those people inside the room. It's not being broadcast. It's only for the 15 people that join us in the room. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Did I lose you, Michelle? Okay. But so that's kind of how that piece works. So the Blackboard Collaborate, as far as I know, there is no limit as far as people. You can have a pile of people in there. But you can only have up to 6 cameras at a time, and they're a little smaller up in the other corner. It doesn't quite have the same kind of, I would call this more of a friendly interface. We can actually almost have a social event in here. We can talk, and it's a little more of a social interaction. Inside of Collaborate, it's a little more of a instructor-class interaction as far as someone's in charge. And it's more obvious that someone's in charge. Although in here, the way I'm broadcasting this, I am in charge. I can actually, because I started this room, I can actually mute one of you or kick you out of the room or silence your video. I can control some things because this is actually being broadcast on my YouTube account, and it was kind of my own creation, and you're invited guest kind of thing. So in this instance, the Google Hangout works the same way as say Collaborate does. Did I answer or create questions with that statement? Maybe, maybe not. Hopefully not. Okay. So let's take a look at where else you might want to add this, and then I'll go ahead and open Collaborate, and we can go ahead and look and see what Collaborate can do for you. So the other place that I'd say you may want to add links to this, well, first, the way I added my Collaborate room using our quick link, I can do the exact same thing inside of any of my modules. I can put a link to it inside of a discussion if I wanted to. So you can link to that pretty much anywhere you see that HTML creator inside your course. I think the news link is one of the better places to put it just because students can then come in and find it. But you can utilize it throughout. So I'm just going to open up Collaborate. Let's take a look at it. So if I click on Collaborate, so I'm going to have to unshare and reshare in a minute here so you can see kind of what I'm seeing. But this part, yeah, you're still seeing my view. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just open our virtual office room here. And I've set this up so they have a start date but no end date. And I don't really need an end date as long as I want to use them for this semester. Because once the semester's over, the students have no access anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to click on Virtual Office. And this is the part you might not see. I may have to unshare my screen for a minute. Because it'll happen here, it's going to pop up and want me to download a small Java piece. And then I have to click Run on it. I guess you can see that so far. So down here, I'm using Google Chrome, first of all. If you have different browsers, you might have a little bit different experience. In Chrome, I get it on the bottom of my screen that says, here's this meeting.jnlp. And this is just a Java piece. I need to say keep. And then, again, depending on the browser you're using, maybe you click Run or Save or whatever. I'm going to say keep. In Chrome, it points it right down here on the bottom. It downloads it. I can just click on it, and it'll run. So it's actually running on my screen now, and it's popped up saying Java 6. Maybe I can hurry and reshare so you can see it. I'll try.
Will that happen every time, or does that only happen once?
That little piece happens every time.
Huh.
So the first time you do it, it asks you a few questions about your speed of your internet and a couple things. But the little Java piece you have to download every time. So to me, that's a bit of a downside with the Collaborate. It's a little bit more technical heavy getting started, but once your students get used to it, it's not so bad. I think Tom's had some pretty good luck with it.
Yeah, it goes pretty quick once you've done it, and you just click on a few things, and within 2 minutes you're in.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is the piece that loads, and then now it's done loading. So, and then unshared my screen. So let me go ahead and share the new window that just popped up. All right, where are you, Blackboard? There you go. So I actually have preloaded this room with some content. So that's why I already have a slide in here. So normally, unless I do this on purpose, I come to an empty room. This time I think Tom actually helped me figure out was you can actually do some pretty cool stuff and preload some of your PowerPoints if you want to into your room before you get there. So this is my Collaborate room. Up on the top, when I first come in, I get a prompt saying, do you want to record this right now? Well, maybe I'm not ready to record, but this thing's in my way. So if I just say close to this, I can click record on the top when I'm ready. So maybe I wasn't ready, but now I can just record it when I'm ready. So right now there's nobody else in here, so I could come into this room kind of early before my students get here, and I can set it up if I haven't already done so. So again, I've already done so, so I have a few slides I've already added to this. But again, normally this comes in just a blank slate, and I need to add my content to this room if I'm going to use content, if that's the reason behind my room. And I'll get to how you add that in just a second. And this is actually a slide I made about how to do the whole Google Hangouts as a virtual room. So, all right, let's kind of walk through what Collaborate is and where the tools are, first of all. I know this might be old hat to Tom because he's already got this figured out, and you may have to some degree already, Michelle, but we'll walk through a little bit. And again, feel free to stop me if you have questions or comments or even a good joke. I'm good with that too. So up here on the top, first we have our menu bar, and we can do some things from here. So I'll get to some of these in just a minute. I don't normally use these a lot unless I'm saving some content. What I do use a lot is right here above this. This is my video area that I'm not using yet, but I will in a minute. But I want to set up my audio. So the first time you come in to make sure your audio is correct and you're using the right microphones or whatever, there's a couple of wizards you can use. So this one here looks like a microphone with a kind of a red dot on it, I guess. If I click on that, this will open up my audio setup wizard. And I can walk through and make sure everything's right. So first I'm selecting an output device. So I'll go ahead and just say my headset that I'm wearing. Say okay. It wants me to play and it makes me play. Like, can you hear me? So you play. It's playing a little noise for me. It actually says welcome to the audio setup wizard. So I can stop it now and say yep, I heard you. So it really kind of makes you go through each process. And again here it wants me to go ahead and pick out what I'm using for a microphone. So what I'm using, the webcam, which has a mic built into it, my headset. I'm already using my headset for our room, so I'll go ahead and use this webcam. And now if I talk, go ahead and record. Now if I talk, you'll see the green bar moving. You know that you have audio. I'll go ahead and stop that. And again, it makes me play it, make sure I heard it. And I can hear that coming through my speakers here. And it just makes sure you're okay. Did everything work? Yes, it did. Okay. So now I know my audio is working correctly. Now for the video piece, it actually has a thing called a video preview, which basically means you can make sure your hair is pretty before you get in the room. So do I look funny? So, and of course my hair looks pretty. So if I click preview, it'll preview my video before I display it to my class. So once I'm good with it, I'll go ahead and click video. And then that turns on the video so they can see it. I don't know why it's still showing preview, but there we go. So that shows my video through. Inside of Collaborate, if I want to talk, it's a little different than, say, a Hangout. In Hangouts, we just have a conversation. I don't have to push any buttons or hold down I'm not using a walkie-talkie, if you will, if you remember the old school walkie-talkies. In here, I kind of have that thing going on. I have to actually click talk. Although in here, this is what I would call a toggle switch, which means once it's on, it's on. So you click it, you turn it on, click it again, turn it off. So if I want to turn on my talk, I can turn it on. And this works better than the older versions of this used to. Back in the day, this had some problems. You had to hold down the button to talk, and it didn't work well if you tried to talk at the same time someone else did. And some of those issues have been fixed. That's not so bad. And then down below here is the list of my participants. So if I have other people in this room with me, they'll be lined up underneath here. I'll be able to kind of see who's in the room, and I can do some things with those participants as far as give them access to different things. I can actually turn off things, that type of stuff, utilizing these little icons here. Again, I'm the one moderating, so I'm not going to take away my own privileges, but you have that ability with your participants in the room. On top of this, although I kind of think they're almost funny, I don't really use these a lot. You have some options for emoticons, so you can try to get what they call, I guess, the mood of the room. If people are laughing or happy or they don't approve. I want you to hurry up. I don't really use those a lot, but some people like to utilize them. So. The other one, this is kind of a away button. If you're going to leave your machine for a minute, because you may not have video, you have 45 students in here, you won't want them to click away if they step away so that you're not asking them a question. Or if you step away, if you click away, you're not worried about them asking you a question, because it'll actually put a little icon next to your picture down here with a little away icon, so that people understand that you're not there right now. They're not talking to an empty room, because this only has 6 videos. If I had another video here, you'd have a little thumbnail up here next to my picture. This also has what they call a hand raise option. So this is one method of controlling a room. So you can have your students basically say, unless you want to talk, leave your talk button turned off. And if you have a question, go ahead and just click the little hand raise button, and then we can entertain the question. What that does is it puts a number next to that person, So it actually puts them in a queue, so they 1, 2, 3, 4 in order that they push the button. So you can call upon them kind of in order if you want. And then this other one is kind of a poll type question here. You can have them respond. There's methods of adding questions and polls to this, and they can say yes, I'm going, no, I'm not going, kind of thing. So, so there's that. The piece that I know that Tom likes and sometimes makes me cry at night a little bit with is utilizing groups, and this has a method of doing that. So it's a little bit hard to show now. I have no students in here, but I can actually move people into groups or create different groups, and they can do some kind of virtual group work utilizing this tool. So across participants here, if I click this drop down, this is one of the methods of creating these breakout rooms for the groups. So if I come down underneath here, if I say create breakout rooms, I cannot talk today. You can create, again, that virtual area. So if I go ahead and click that, you see that new pop-up window? Yeah, I think you did, kind of. Okay. So then I can say, I can give it a name, how many rooms I want. I can tell it not to move people, or I can tell it to distribute people evenly, or I can divide them into groups of 2 or whatever. And I can include myself, or if I have other moderators in the room, include everybody in a group as well. So that's how that piece works. Do you have anything on that, Tom? I know you utilize it a lot. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, one of the things you can do, you can visit various rooms. You can move yourself room 1, 2, 3, 4, so you can be meeting with them for a while and then change rooms. That works pretty good. Now, some of the times it kicks kids out of the room and sends them back to the main room, so you have to kind of watch that. Maybe they have got that problem resolved. See, you could just highlight your name and move your name right on down to room 1. There you go. Yep. And then that's where you are. But the problem is, see that red line around there? Mm-hmm. That way, your screen that you had is no longer there, and you have to go up to you have to go back. Yeah, you have to do that, but you also have to go and load it in there.
Yeah, that's one of the issues with these rooms, as Tom said. Although I think I had this as follow. Notice that red line where he was saying that's really important. I should point it out. If that red line is there, it basically means I can kind of move on and look at other things, and my students or other people in the room don't see that. It's kind of me looking ahead before I get there. So if this little button's not selected, they're not seeing it. But even if that's selected, now if I move down here, that content is not here. Right. So if you want the same content in every room, you have to actually move it to every room, which can be done. But I guess it depends on the reasoning behind it, why you have a breakout room. Of course, if you have moderators in these rooms, they can also go up to this drop down and they can add the content directly here. Or again, you would have to come to each room and then point whatever content you want them to see into that room. I'm assuming usually if you have different breakout rooms, you may want different content per room, but maybe not. It just depends why you're utilizing the breakout room. But yeah, very true, Tom. And I know, like I said, Tom uses the breakout rooms more than I do for sure. He's got this breakout room thing kind of figured out. But that's some pretty cool stuff that you can do that you can't do in a Google Hangout. I don't really have the option to make breakout rooms, and I could certainly make more than one Hangout, and my students could all use it in their own groups. But as far as being together yet broken out like we are here, right now that's not an option in Hangouts, and I kind of doubt they'll add that piece because I don't see him adding that piece, but who knows? That's possible, I guess.
What's really helpful, I mean, some of my classes are 35 students, and it breaks them into small groups when I'm ready for them. That really helps, and I can break them into groups of 4, 5, 6, whatever I want, so they can dialogue in those groups. So that's helpful for me.
Yep, I appreciate that, Tom. So after that, and these groups, let me go ahead and look at that real quick. These groups, this little item here is a menu item, so it's good to know. You'll see that in a couple places. So I can do some things from here. I can copy the whiteboard to the main room. If I've had them each kind of create their own whiteboard and do something with it, I can copy that to the main room and look at it. I can do some stuff with that too. So the whiteboard is this area that we're on here. So I could actually have a slide, and then I could even draw on that slide or do whatever with that slide. So I can tweak it and modify it and play with it. And although this initially, it was actually a Google presentation, but it was loaded as a PowerPoint. Although this was loaded as a PowerPoint, I might have had narrations or even animations on here. When I load it into Blackboard Collaborate, it basically comes in as a picture. So every slide is basically a picture. So they have no interactivity except what I'm doing here, drawing on them or whatnot. But like for instance, this was a link down here. That link's not going to work because this is not pulling that information. It's only pulling it as a kind of an image of my PowerPoint. So that's something to be noted as well. And that's a piece that again is different than what we're doing because the way I'm sharing inside of a Hangout, this information is interactive, and I can click on it and navigate through pages and do stuff. But in here, that's not. And up here on the top, this little icon that's kind of highlighted, this is our whiteboard, and again, that's where we're at right now. And it also has really application sharing, so kind of like a screen share. I'm not a fan of it inside of Blackboard Collaborate, frankly. It tends to really slow the machine down. But if I click on that, I can either share the entire desktop or I can share just one window. One something I have open, if I was going to share inside of Collaborate, I would try to utilize this. I think it's a little quicker. If you share the entire desktop, it tends to get clunky, as well as you're sharing things you didn't mean to share. You're sharing everything that you see, they see, your entire desktop. So again, I'm not a big fan of that method. I'd rather just share one window. And that Google Chrome, notice there's a little plus thing here because I have more than one page in Chrome open, so I could actually share just a single. Well, at least it shows what's open on that one. If I have more than one, I think with IE or different browsers, you might be able to pick individually, but this one is just going to share your basically your Chrome window. So that's an option. This next link over here is a web sharing. So if I click on this web tour, first I can do a couple things here. I could just put in, let's go ahead and share our UWG online. .westj.u. Then I can do some stuff with it. So first I have a follow me option here as well. So it allows them to follow along kind of what I'm doing. But I also click this drop down. I could take the same URL, I could publish it to chat, I could open it in their browser, so it opens a new browser on their machine with that web page. If I click this, I can basically put that in again. Or again, I'll just go ahead and enter here. Actually, let's say follow me. Let's push it down here. There we go. Now it's going to publish it in this page. So this should have my students follow along with this page, although some web pages, depending on how they're designed on the back end of the web page itself, it may not follow along for your students because it kind of depends on whether the URL changes or not. I know that's kind of an interesting thing, but some pages are written so the actual URL doesn't change of the page, but the content changes. So sometimes the students may not see exactly what you see. But then I can navigate through this page and the students can see it. So the other one that I was going to mention right here is this one. So I could just type it in here. If I click OK, it actually opens a new browser and they can see it there. So that's one method of sharing content. If I want to just load PowerPoints in here, again, basically as images, I'm doing that. Usually I'll put them here in my whiteboard, but I'm going to click Load Content, and I'll browse and get a PowerPoint. I don't know if I have one on this machine, to be real honest. I don't think I do. But I'm just going to grab a PowerPoint and pull it in. And that's what it's looking for, really, is a PowerPoint, not anything else. I haven't had good luck with pretty much any other file type. Not from here.
Okay, I have a question on that because sometimes when I load the PowerPoint, and it goes up. But if for some reason I have to go out and or turn the computer off or come back later, it's gone. It's not there.
If you load a PowerPoint and come back, you're right. It's not there.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. So the only way I could do that, and I thought we'd maybe talked about this before, maybe not, maybe it was somebody else, is I'd actually first load the PowerPoint, and I'm going to pretend like I did because that's what this is up here. I'm going to go back to my whiteboard. So this is my PowerPoint. So once you've loaded it, you're going to have your slides right here. So let's say this is my PowerPoint. Remember, this was here when we got here. But the only reason it was here when we got here is because I went ahead and pre-saved this so that my students could access it. Okay? Does that make sense?
And you pre-saved it how?
I'll show you right now. So once you kind of preload it and you have your room like you want, and then you say, you know what, I want to keep this content next time. Or if you come ahead of class and just want to set up and then turn off your computer and come back in an hour and start class, you can load all your content. Come right up here to File.
Okay.
Go down to Save. And what you want to do is save the whiteboard.
Right.
So saving the whiteboard is going to create a .wbd file, a whiteboard file, and I want all pages. Now I could say I only want certain pages here. I don't really want everything. I added extra crap that I didn't need. I could pick which ones I wanted as well, but I'll say all pages and say OK. That's going to ask me where I want to save it, and now I can go ahead and save this whiteboard. And I'll call mine Google because that's what I'm sharing here is this Google plus Hangout room. I'll just put it on my desktop here so I can find it in a minute, and I'll save it. So I've saved the whiteboard, but I still need to make sure next time I come in here, that information is here. So let's say I'm done here. I've saved my whiteboard. I'm going to close my Collaborate room. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. It's going to unshare my screen when I do this. And now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again to this other screen. Looks like I have one chat message here. Oh, Michelle ran away from us. No worries. So I'm going to say screen share and go back to my other screen here, Tom. And inside of here, where you see your different rooms, this is where you're going to add your content. So that virtual office is what I'm using. So you're going to select it so it opens up the sidebar.
Right.
I'm going to click Content.
That's where you go, yeah.
Yep. And see right here, I've already added this because I've did this before. I called it WBD. I'm going to click Edit Session. And this is where I'd add it.
Ah, okay.
So, all right, if I already have one, I got to get rid of it. So I could click this and remove it, and then it'll let me upload another one if I don't have one already. And I'll just upload and add it here and save it.
Yeah.
And that
you can only add one down there.
That's correct.
Minimum of one session per session.
Yeah, maximum of one per session.
Maximum. Yeah. Okay.
But it's pretty cool. So that way you already have your content.
Yeah.
The other thing you can do, and I think it was you that told me about this already, is I could, if I wanted to, add some, say, movie files right here. And I think we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah.
You and I? Yeah, and that's a great thing. I think that's where you pointed me to that, frankly. So that's kind of cool, but they can't be real big, I don't think. It seems to have to measure the big ones, but that's not a bad option.
Yeah.
Pull some movies in there. Then save it once you're done, and you're good to go.
Okay.
But, any other thoughts from you, good sir?
No. I'm still a little confused on all of the virtual rooms and how I might use that. I mean, when I go on my courses, every one of my rooms, I just have one for each class, and so far that has worked fine.
And I think that's okay. The only reason you might have differences is because if you record them,
right?
You come up here to your recordings. I haven't been recording these because this is just a play area. I have a lot recorded, but you might want them named differently so that you can tell what your recordings are. It's really more for your recordings, in my opinion. So you might want to record even your office hours, if for whatever reason, at least part of your office hours. If someone comes in, they have this great question, and you know what? Let's record this because I think this will be useful to somebody else. You could record that piece of your office hour session with one student, and then let people know in your class, hey, go check this out. Click on office hours, and they can see those recordings as well. Notice up here under recordings, I think you already know this probably, but I can click here to play that recording. I've already converted this particular recording into a MP4, but if I click over here, I can go ahead and convert this one as well. So this bottom one, my very fun house, I can make an MP4, which is the movie, or an MP3, which is just audio. It takes a little bit for it to do that conversion, but I can go ahead and just make them both so that my students can have the different methods of watching those later. So that's a pretty cool thing. Of course, I could even download that. I might want to download that so I can use it later. My next class, I can download that and then upload it to, say, YouTube and utilize it in my next semester's class, since this particular room is part of this semester. So if I want to utilize my recordings, I'll just save them as movies and download them.
Ah, interesting. Yeah.
But so that's the benefit of those.
Well, each time I open it and each time I play around with it a little bit and listening to you talk about this, I learn new things. It's a little overwhelming to do all at once.
Yeah, you're right. It is. It is. Well, unless they say, you know how you eat an elephant, right? Just one bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
But I think it's very true. And what I don't like to do is make people think they have to come in and use every bit of technology they can find. Like, the whole idea behind the technology is only utilize it if it's good for your pedagogy. If it makes classroom sense, then use it. If it doesn't, then don't use it.
Yeah.
Don't load it all in there. But I think there's some good tools here. I'm really sold on Hangouts, frankly, if I can use them. But sometimes that's just not an option. You're doing, like with you, you're doing things that you can't do in Hangout. And that makes total sense for you to use the collaborate rooms because of how you're using what you're doing. It just makes sense.
Yeah. It's good to get used to one thing, and that doesn't mean that you can't. There couldn't be uses for the other, but I'm trying to learn one thing and learn it as best as I can.
I totally agree with that, Tom. And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there's no reason really to change it. Collaborate's working for you. Use Collaborate.
Yeah.
And for what you're doing, I wouldn't even recommend trying to change, because what you're doing, you can't really do in Hangouts.
You can't do it there.
Breakout rooms. You're doing stuff that Hangouts don't do anyway. So.
And there's others that use Skype. There's one professor, but he meets with everybody, about 5 or 6 at a time, and he schedules different times during the day. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't have that much time.
I agree with that. So you can also, just so you know, there's actually, if you have a mobile device, iPads and things, Collaborate and Hangout both have apps that you can load on your mobile device. So your students or you could utilize your mobile device.
Yeah.
To access the room.
Students have used those. Yeah.
Yeah. Now it doesn't work quite the same. Like in Hangout, for instance, if you're sharing certain things that you share, they don't see in a Hangout, although some they do, but the mobile device isn't perfect. And I believe Collaborate's the same way. They might not see everything. They don't have the same interaction on the mobile device, it seems, they do on a computer, but they're close.
Yeah, yeah. But it doesn't work when I'm teaching. I don't think I can do it on the iPad very well. I haven't tried it.
I would agree with that. If you're doing, I wouldn't use it to teach because it's harder to share things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe you could share your content as easy, if at all, frankly. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't use that as the instructor side of it, but it's possible at least to use it from the student. However, if you're doing it just as a conversation with students, like in office hours, where you're not really sharing content, you're just there to talk if they need it, that could certainly be done.
Yeah.
But.
Hey, David, thank you very much.
Hey, no problem. I'm glad you could join.
Yeah. I just saw your email, so I says, I was just hoping to slide in and watch what you guys are doing. So.
Well, I'm glad you did, man. I usually will only do these if I have people here, because I don't, I'm not a guy to talk to an empty room. But it's worth doing them, and I love doing it. Yeah. And then I record them if we have people here, because there's always different questions every time. So.
Sure. Yeah, I just got out of a class, so that's why I saw it here.
Awesome. You'll probably get an email in a little bit. I'll send out a quick thing saying, hey, fill out this little survey, just so we can keep track of how good we're doing.
Okay.
And I'll shoot that. I'll just shoot it to your email.
That'll be fine.
Awesome, Tom. I appreciate it. Thanks again.
Thank you, David.
You betcha.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I will. You too. Bye. And I'll close the broadcast now. Thanks for watching.